picture this, a sprawling estate right in the heart of the English countryside.
Okay.
And a family with a brood of daughters.
Yeah.
All beautiful, all brilliant, each one.
Yeah.
Fiercely independent. But one of these sisters, she's hiding a dark secret. A secret that'll pull her into the heart of Nazi Germany. We're going deep today into the life of Unity Mitford, the British aristocrat who became one of Hitler's most infamous devotees.
It's really fascinating how Unity's story is so intertwined with her family history and that pull of fascism that was sweeping through parts of Europe in the 1930s. We're going to be looking at biographies, historical accounts, and even Unity's own words to try to understand her motivations and the complex world she lived in.
Okay, so to understand Unity, we have to start with her family, the Mitfords.
Yeah.
They were this huge aristocratic clan known for their, well, strong personalities and some pretty controversial views.
From the very beginning, you see these connections to pro-German and anti-Semitic figures. It's almost like Unity's path was set by the beliefs already in her family. For example, her grandfather on her father's side was a friend of Richard Wagner, the composer Hitler loved.
Wagner was a known anti-Semite, right?
Yes, and he was close with Houston Stewart Chamberlain, who wrote that really anti-Semitic book, The Foundations of the 19th Century. And her grandfather actually translated it.
Wow.
So these ideas were floating around in the family long before Unity got involved with Nazism.
It sounds like a breeding ground for these sorts of beliefs.
Yeah, and it went beyond the older generation, too.
Right.
Unity's own mother, Sydney, she had some pretty disturbing beliefs.
Okay.
She thought Jewish dietary laws stopped cancer, and she was fascinated by this idea, but not for good reasons.
It's wild to think how casually these prejudices were just accepted.
Yeah.
Even embraced by people who were considered elite.
And there's another layer to this unusual family history. Unity's father, David, he went off to Canada to prospect for gold. He bought a mine in a town called, and this is true, Swastika.
No way.
And that's where Unity was conceived.
You can't make this up.
You really can't.
So we've got this backdrop of privilege, eccentricity, and some disturbing ideologies. And then into this world comes Unity, given the name Unity Valkyrie Mitford.
Yeah.
It seems to suggest an early fascination with Germanic mythology and these powerful, almost mythical figures.
It is a pretty loaded name, considering what she later became.
Yeah, it really is. What was she like as a young woman?
People said she was headstrong, attention-seeking, with a taste for the shocking.
Oh.
She brought pet rats and snakes to parties.
Wow.
Even though her family didn't usually care for formal education for their girls.
Right.
She got sent to school twice and expelled both times.
Sounds like a rebel.
Definitely had a rebellious streak. Some biographers think she felt overshadowed by her older sister, Diana.
Diana, the one who married Oswald Mosley.
Yeah.
The British Union of Fascists leader.
That's the one.
Wow.
Diana was considered a great beauty, married a wealthy socialite, and was admired by people like Evelyn Waugh. It makes you think, how did these two sisters from the same family end up on such different paths?
Yeah, so Diana falls for Mosley and gets deep into the British fascist movement. Was Unity on the same page from the start?
Actually, she wasn't interested in politics at all initially.
Okay.
But then she got kind of infatuated with Mosley himself.
Interesting.
And through him, she got drawn into his ideology.
So it started with a personal connection.
Exactly.
Not so much an ideological one.
Exactly. Pretty soon, she joined the BUF, was out on the streets of Oxford selling their newspapers.
That's a big change from someone who didn't care about politics.
It is. And all this while, her sister Jessica was becoming a devoted communist.
It's like this sibling rivalry playing out on the world stage.
She really is.
Two sisters, same family, same privileges, choosing completely opposite ideologies.
It's remarkable. It says a lot about how individuals make choices and how people respond to what's going on around them.
It's an incredible dynamic.
Yeah. And this fascination with fascism, well, it took a darker turn when Unity met Hitler himself. The first time Unity saw Hitler was at that 1933 Nuremberg rally.
Right.
She described it as the most wonderful and beautiful day of her life.
It's a chilling thought when you know what we know now about Hitler and the Nazis.
It is. But for Unity, this was a turning point.
Yeah.
She was totally captivated by Hitler and all that Nazi power on display.
Right.
She moved to Munich enrolled in a language school, conveniently right next to the Nazi headquarters, and became a regular at this cafe where Hitler and his people hung out.
That sounds like she was almost stalking him.
Yeah, there's definitely that element of obsession.
Right.
She even got hold of a copy of Mein Kampf signed by Hitler and other big Nazi figures. Imagine having a book like that.
Yeah.
A book full of hate as a prized possession.
It's pretty disturbing.
It is. But somehow she gets into Hitler's inner circle.
What was it about her that he liked?
It seems he was charmed by her eccentricity,
Yeah.
her aristocratic background, her willingness to just have a lighthearted conversation.
Okay.
She'd encourage him to tell jokes and do impressions, especially of Mussolini.
Really?
Apparently, it really amused her.
It's hard to picture Hitler telling jokes,
I know.
knowing all the horrors he was behind.
It's strange, isn't it? But it shows how complex he was. Those contradictions in people who do such evil things.
Yeah.
And Unity, she gave him kind of escape, a moment of fun.
Right.
He gave her a gold swastika badge with his signature on it.
Wow.
A rare honor. And he invited her and Diana to big events.
Okay.
Like the Olympic Games.
So it was more than just a casual friendship.
Yeah, it was. And historians debated a lot.
What do they think?
Was it just platonic or was there something more? Most biographers think it was platonic,
Okay.
but there are always rumors.
Of course.
One biographer, Laura Thompson, she thinks that Unity's upbringing, her lack of pretense, her yearning for lightness, it made her relaxed and fun around Hitler in a way others weren't.
I see.
But we can't forget the dark side of Unity's Nazism.
Right. We can't just brush it off.
No. There are stories that show real cruelty and intolerance.
Oh.
She bragged once about deliberately sending an elderly Jewish woman the wrong way just because she enjoyed seeing her struggle with heavy bags.
That's awful.
And she was close friends with Julius Streicher,
Okay.
the editor of Der Stürmer, that really anti-Semitic newspaper.
Yeah.
Even other Nazis thought he was brutal.
Right.
And Unity wrote a letter to Der Stürmer saying Jews should be kicked out of England.
Wow.
She called herself a Jew hater.
So she was deeply involved in that world, even with war on the horizon.
Yeah, and this is where things get dramatic.
Okay.
When World War II was about to start, Hitler told both Unity and Diana to get out of Germany. Diana went back to England,
Yeah.
but Unity refused to leave.
Can you imagine? So devoted to Hitler and the Nazis that she'd stay,
Yeah.
even knowing war with her own country was coming.
She was living in a flat in Munich that Hitler had given her,
Okay.
a flat taken from a Jewish couple who she just ignored.
Hmm.
And then when Britain declared war on Germany, September 3rd, 1939,
All right.
Unity did something shocking.
She tried to kill herself. Right.
Yeah.
Went to the English Garden in Munich and shot herself in the head.
It was a small pistol, and the bullet didn't kill her.
Oh, wow.
She was found, rushed to the hospital, and even then, she was the center of attention.
Right.
Hitler sent flowers, Goebbels, other high-ranking Nazis.
It's so strange. A British woman tries to end her life
I know.
because of the war between her chosen country and her homeland.
It's bizarre.
And she's getting sympathy from the people causing the war.
And the story gets even stranger.
Okay.
On September 10th, just a week after she tried to kill herself, Hitler visits her in the hospital.
Wow.
It's the beginning of the war, but he makes time to see her.
Wow.
But she's so out of it, she doesn't even recognize him.
It's a tragic image. This young woman,
Yeah.
her life destroyed by the ideology she believed in,
Right.
can't even recognize the man she worshipped.
As she starts to recover, she tries to kill herself again.
Really? Oh.
She swallows her swastika badge, a desperate act.
Yeah.
It takes 6 weeks before she can even speak.
Wow. 6 weeks of silence recovering from a self-inflicted wound.
Yeah.
All because of her devotion to Hitler and the Nazis.
It makes you wonder what was going through her mind.
It does.
On November 8th, Hitler visits her again, the last time. He asks her what she wants. Stay in Germany or go back to England.
And she chooses to go home.
Yeah. Hitler arranges for her to be taken to Bern in Switzerland,
Nope.
neutral territory. It's still the phony war period.
Right.
So she can travel by train from Switzerland back to England.
Okay.
Her mother and her younger sister, Deborah, go to get her.
Can you imagine that trip? Unity with a bullet in her brain.
It's hard to imagine.
Her mother still supporting Hitler. The family dynamics must have been crazy.
When she gets back to England, there's this controversy.
Yeah.
Armed guards everywhere. It's not clear if they're there to protect Unity or to keep people away from her.
Right. It looks like she's getting special treatment.
Yeah.
Because she's an aristocrat,
Right.
which makes people angry. Here's someone who supported the enemy,
Yeah.
but it seems she's not facing any real consequences.
In the House of Commons, Herbert Morrison,
Okay.
who later becomes Home Secretary, criticizes the government for how they're handling it.
Right.
He says a working-class person wouldn't get the same treatment.
He's right.
He is. It shows how unequal the British class system was.
Yeah, especially during wartime.
Unity is taken to the Radcliffe Infirmary in Oxford.
Okay.
Doctors say it's too risky to take the bullet out.
So she's left with permanent brain damage.
Yeah. They say her mental capacity is like a 10-year-old's. She's incontinent, described as being like a big dog.
Really?
Shambolic, limbs moving uncontrollably.
It's a sad picture.
It is. This once vibrant, even misguided young woman,
Right.
now like a shell of herself because of the choices she made.
Makes you think about extremism.
Yeah.
How it can just consume someone, leading to destruction.
Right, for themselves and others.
And her family is torn apart by the war.
Yeah. Her parents split up.
Because of the war?
Her father, Lord Redesdale, becomes super patriotic.
Right.
Can't stand his wife still supporting Hitler.
Wow.
Their son, Tom, dies fighting in Burma.
Oh, no.
And then in 1948, Unity dies at 33 from meningitis.
So young.
Her life cut short by what she did.
It's a sad and unsettling end to a story full of contradictions.
It is.
Born into wealth and privilege, but drawn to an ideology of hate.
Yeah.
Intelligent and charismatic, but manipulated by a dictator.
Right.
It's a warning about unchecked ambition and blind faith.
And it makes you wonder how we should remember people like her.
The Mitford sisters.
Yeah. Unity, Diana, they've become almost icons. Books, documentaries, even walking tours about them.
Yeah.
But does all that gloss over the harm they caused?
Right, by supporting the Nazis.
It's a tough balance.
It is.
We can see their lives were complex.
Right.
But we can't romanticize or downplay their role in Nazi horrors.
Absolutely.
And speaking of romanticizing, there are still mysteries about Unity.
Oh, like what?
Her return to England and the possibility she might have had Hitler's child.
Right, pet theory.
Fueled by those MI5 documents and someone saying they saw Unity at a maternity hospital.
Yeah.
Most historians don't believe it, but it adds to the intrigue.
It does. So they say she gave birth to Hitler's child in secret.
That's the theory.
Wow.
It got traction partly because of how Unity's sister, Nancy,
The novelist.
portrayed their family in her books.
They were popular.
They were, based on her family, but fictionalized.
Right.
Some say they romanticized the Mitfords, softened their connection to fascism.
It shows how powerful stories are, even fictional ones.
Yeah.
They can shape how we see history.
It brings us back to the big question.
Right.
Was Unity a true Nazi believer or just a thrill seeker out of her depth? Was it her family, her need to belong, or something deeper?
It's hard to know for sure.
It is.
Maybe it was a mix of things,
Yeah.
circumstance and personality,
Right.
that made her one of the most notorious figures of
Yeah.
the 20th century.
Unity's life poses a tough question.
Yeah.
How could someone so privileged be seduced by such a hateful ideology?
It is something to think about.
It is. It reminds us that extremism can appeal to anyone.
Right.
It can transcend class, education, even common sense.
It's a warning that's still relevant.
Absolutely.
We have to be vigilant against intolerance and hate,
Yeah.
question authority, never take our freedoms for granted. It's so strange to think about someone like Unity, someone who had it all,
Yeah.
being drawn to an ideology that really offered nothing to her.
It's a puzzle that historians and psychologists are still trying to figure out. What was it about the Nazis that spoke to someone from her background?
You mentioned earlier about her family's anti-Semitic views.
Right.
Was that enough to push her towards such extreme beliefs?
It definitely played a part. Growing up with those ideas, it makes them seem normal, less extreme.
I guess so.
But we have to think about the time period, too.
Okay.
The 1930s, Europe was a mess economically and politically.
Right.
Fascism grew partly because people were disillusioned with democracy.
So people were looking for answers.
Exactly. And Hitler was really good at exploiting that,
Yeah.
offering scapegoats, easy solutions. For some, like Unity,
Right.
his message of national revival and racial purity was appealing.
It's hard to believe someone so intelligent could fall for that.
It shows that intelligence isn't the same as wisdom or critical thinking.
Sure.
Sometimes the need to belong, to have a purpose,
Yeah.
it overrides logic.
Do you think that's what happened with Unity?
Possibly. Some think she was drawn to Hitler because of hero worship,
Yeah.
a need to be close to power.
Like a teenager obsessed with a rock star.
Exactly, except the rock star is a genocidal dictator.
It's a scary thought.
Huh.
But it shows the danger of blindly following a leader.
Yeah, without questioning them.
Right.
So what can we learn from all this, from Unity's story?
What do you think?
I think it warns us about extremism, how easy it is to get pulled in
Right.
by ideologies offering easy answers to hard problems.
Yeah.
It reminds us to be vigilant against hate.
To question authority.
Exact.
To never take our freedoms for granted.
And it highlights the importance of thinking critically, evaluating information, forming our own opinions.
Not just believing what we're told.
Yeah. We need to recognize propaganda,
Right.
see the dangers of scapegoating and fear-mongering.
It can be so powerful.
It can. Unity's story shows that even intelligent people can be fooled.
So what do you think about all of this? Was Unity a true believer or just a thrill seeker?
It's a tough question.
It is. Was she a victim of her upbringing or did she choose evil?
We've explored a lot in this deep dive into Unity Mitford's life.
Yeah, from her eccentric
So that's her obsession with Hitler.
and the tragic consequences of her choices.
Her story is a reminder of the dark side of human nature.
Right. And the importance of staying informed and engaged.
So we can fight against intolerance and hate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about Unity Mitford's story.
On our social media channels.
And until next time, keep diving deep and keep questioning everything.